this video, I'm going to go over how you can build a six-figure business successfully in your early 20s. In case you're new here, I'm Jith. I've graduated from Biomedical Science with first class from the University of Technology, Sydney, and I've actually established a six-figure business here in Sydney, Australia in my early 20s. And I just wanted to share my journey with you and also different tips and tricks that you can use to help get you to the point where you can also build something out that's similar. And believe me, I know what it's like to feel stuck, trying to balance the rigors of university and earning money on the side whilst trying to keep my grades up and basically create something. But something I realized is that you don't have to wait for a degree. You don't have to wait for permission to go ahead and start something. And if you're in your early 20s, just start a business, start posting content online. And then you will find that given enough time, you will become successful and you will be a successful business. And in this video, I'll just talk about the types of businesses that you can start in your early 20s that are more likely to help you get into this six-figure range and probably easier than like some other businesses. And it's also really important to realize that we're living in a very special time in history. It's never been easier to start a business. It's never been easier to get customers. And honestly, the barriers to entry to a lot of these high-performing businesses are quite low. Like, you just need a phone and a camera most of the time and a connection to the internet, and you can start making very decent money just on the side. And especially now that we're facing a lot of economic challenges where it's just more expensive to live. It's just really expensive to just like pay for bills, pay for groceries, and just like live like life. It's super important that you try and create something for yourself, something that is able to generate enough income for you and probably outside of your own normal job. So if you do have a job, trying to build something out like a business along the side is a great backup option for you, just in case you might lose your job, just in case something just goes wrong with the economy and then you have to fend for yourself. So when I was building out my own business, I was 19 when I started it, and I was working as a tutor for this other place. And I essentially didn't really like how they ran the place. So I tried to create my own tutoring center where I just used to work as a solo person. And then I slowly hired out a couple of my friends. And then when it got too much for us, we basically just hired out a spot and we started to teach from there. And then over time, it just grew and grew and grew. But I did that on the side of my studies. So I was still studying for biomedical science, still trying to keep my grades relatively high, but I also was trying to build out this business on the side. And it wasn't without its challenges. There were certain times where I had to work basically 7 days a week for like a year on my business, whilst also balancing university because of some economic downturns that happened. For example, during some of the lockdowns that happened in Sydney when the pandemic was happening, I had to basically pay for rent in a location which I was barely even using. So I had to move all of my students remotely, and half of the students basically stopped coming because of all the, like, I guess, a lot of kids, like, their parents don't really want to send them to online tutoring. So they just waited out that period. So I was doing full-time uni. I was working double the hours, working every day, and I was making half the profits. And I was just getting by to like cover rent at the time. And this was like 2-3 years ago. But fast forward to now, we have a few hundred students. We're doing amazing between both the different locations that we have and across online platforms. So just pushing through any challenges, especially now that we're young and we are able to set aside time for doing these kinds of things. Because when we get older and we have extra responsibilities like families and extra work commitments and just things that we have to do around the house because we don't live with our parents anymore, it gets harder to start these businesses and it gets harder to fail and then recover the order that you get. Not saying that you can't do it if you're older, because you can definitely do a business even if you're older. But if you start this in your 20s, you go through all the challenges, or mostly like the bulk of the challenges earlier on in your life. So then you have more of the upside later on. So if you think about success as like a compound interest curve, where it starts off really slow and then it kind of increases very quickly. You want to get this slow part done as early as possible. So then you get to that part where it's just exponentially rising. And that just applies to basically anything that you do, like not just business, but like fitness and other areas of your life as well, but especially business. Now, when it comes to business, there's good businesses to start and there's not so good businesses to start. So essentially, if you start a bad business, so a bad business would be a business where it's difficult to run, it's not fun, it's not making you that much money, the margins are terrible, then that's not the smartest business that you can go into. Because realistically, if you do start a business, you're going to be putting in roughly the same amount of time into like any business that you start, right? If you have like 20 hours a week that you can put into a business outside of university and outside of like other work commitments, then you want to pick a business model which has the highest possible leverage rather than a business model which doesn't have that much leverage. So for example, if I had to sell cupcakes, right? Like there's so much that goes into making cupcakes. Like, aside from just baking stuff and making sure all of the, like pest control things are put in place, and also just making sure that it tastes good, the recipe's good, that it's followed perfectly each time. There's so many moving parts. And I guess like if you have a shop which is selling cupcakes, there's so many different moving parts, which make it very complicated to run in a lean and efficient manner. Whereas if you start an online business where maybe you make content and maybe you sell something online, it could be like your own digital products. It could be like courses and things. The reason why so many people have kind of gone into this space where they sell courses or they sell information products is because it is a great business model, because the profit margins is really high. If you think about it, you make something like a course once and then you can reproduce it like millions of times. People that watch videos, they can watch your videos and then be brought to purchasing products. Typically like online digital products and service-based businesses would be the smartest businesses that you can go into as a younger person. Mainly because when you think about something like a physical product, let's say you have to move a physical product around. You can definitely do it, like clothing brands and stuff. But the problem with that is you have to worry about inventory. You have to worry about all the intricacies that come with, like just shipping things and managing all of that. And then what to do if, let's say, your supplier from like China doesn't respond to you or doesn't speak English properly. And then they take like three weeks to like respond to you because of like Chinese New Year. There's a lot of problems that can happen with a physical product compared to like service-based businesses and digital businesses. So like I would always just recommend as an early 20-year-old to try and pick something that's digital, or pick something that's service-based. So service-based is like, you're teaching something to somebody, you're consulting with somebody, you're coaching them. Maybe you're coaching them for Muay Thai or boxing. Maybe you're teaching them some like subject in high school, or you're teaching them some university subject, or some like medical entrance exam, for example. Or like you're giving them a haircut or something. But if you think about something like, let's say, a digital product, like a course, like that can also be a really good business model to go into as well. So essentially, if you choose, let's say, a service-based product, or you choose an online digital product, you want to try and create a audience. First, start with creating an audience to create people that know you, that like you, they trust you. And then over time, they'll be more likely to want to purchase from you because you've done everything that you can to provide value to their lives. Even if it's just like giving them a video that they really like to watch or that kind of change their life in a positive way, then they feel like they trust you like a lot more. So then you can offer them a even more valuable product that they're more likely to purchase by putting out content. So if you're able to put out content, you're able to leverage this like social media platform. It's going to be sent to thousands of people over time, maybe tens of thousands, maybe even millions of people, depending on what platform and depending on how good your videos are. And then you can drive more traffic to your products. I was going to talk about more like business models, but I feel like keeping it to something relatively simple would be like the best advice for this video, mainly because like if you have too much choice, you're probably not going to choose anything. Now, coaching / tutoring / consulting, great business model that's service-based. Digital products or course selling, also a great business. So think about what you have expertise in if you want to do something like this, and think about what you can sell. So maybe you did great in year 12, or like great in like, high school, and the entrance, the final exams or whatever they are. And then you want to just teach people from high school to whatever subject that you did best in. That could be a great business to start on the side of doing your university studies or on the side of you working. Additionally, you can make that even more high leverage by creating that into a course and then creating content around that course and then selling that. Because now your hours aren't tied to the money that you put out, at least not directly tied. You can put in a lot of time invested up front to, let's say, create those products and then create the initial videos. And then like afterwards, you just have to like post videos, not super regularly, but like somewhat regularly in order to drive traffic to like that online course. So those are the two, I guess, best kind of businesses to start in your 20s if you want to be earning like a mid 6 figures income. You can do it in other ways, but in terms of the easiest parts to getting there, I would recommend those two. As someone who's done one of them and who's in the process of doing another one of them, I can definitely say that it's so much easier. And if you think about the lifestyle that you can, I guess, live, if you make the digital one or the completely online one successful, like you don't have to be tied down to anywhere geographically. You can move anywhere in the world. And because it's online, you'll be making money all across the world. But because you're not physically tied to a specific location, you don't have to worry too much about all the extra expenses of having like a proper business location. It might look nice to the outside to have a proper business location, but as someone who owns like a business and having to pay rents and having to pay all these like additional like costs that are associated with a physical space, it'll be much more efficient and much better for your quality of life if you can create this digital online business around your own expertise, where you sell information products, where you sell yourself basically as like a personal brand. Like your own knowledge can be used to consult people. Your own knowledge can be used to sell courses and books, and they have insane leverage. And that's something that you just want to do in your early 20s, because it takes time to gain expertise. It takes time to build trust. And you want to start that investment of trust building in your audience as young as possible. So I wish I started YouTube when I was like 19. I wish I didn't like wait until I'm like in my like, I don't know, like 22, 23 to get started with something like YouTube, because I can see now that it's like with a lot of people around this particular niche who become successful in the last 5-10 years, it's really about them putting in consistent effort. And then so far it's like, it'll be nothing for a long time, and then it'll be everything. And then that's the point you want to get to. But in order to get to that point where you're doing really well, you gotta go through that point, or like there's multiple points that really suck. And then after that, it gets way better. It gets so much better. And you just have to trust the process.